Is it on go or is it on three or is it on one?
Problematic.
I'm Marquise.
Problematic. Problematic. Cookout podcast. Here, Sito in the building. Problematic.
It's your boy Juju.
Problematic. Cookout podcast. Problematic.
Yo, what did my man just say then?
Problematic.
Yo, you're listening to Mr. Rock.
Problematic. Cookout podcast.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode with The Problematic Cookout. I'm your boy Juju.
It's your boy Marquise.
Sito in the building as usual.
And Mr. Rock right here.
And we are excited to be back here with another episode. So today's episode is a little interesting because that's not something that was planned. It's not something that was planned. We found ourselves having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and we were like, what? Guys, let's bring that to our young chefs and see what they have to say about it. So, hey, without further ado, let's get to cooking. So, fellas, taxes. The good old world taxes. Such a loaded topic, but I want to get right into it. So let's not waste any time and state your stance on the matter. And what we're speaking about here is obviously the conversation around should the rich be taxed more or, you know, how that should work. But yeah, get to speaking. Mr. Rock, what you got to say?
Yeah, I think like taxes, they're needed regardless. Every which point that you want to look at it, but it's all about the structure and and what the basis of why and when and where people get taxed. So the lawmakers and the people at the top, they're making all the rules, they're making all the laws and stuff like that, and obviously it's benefiting the people that are at the top. So it all filters down, and the people at the bottom, they get the worst of it. So we get used to paying tax. Say for instance in the UK, the tax is directly taken out of your money, from when you're working, from when you're buying stuff at the store. Tax is already added in with it all the time. So from that perspective, people grow up and learn that tax is just it's just what you're supposed to pay and what you have to pay. Yeah. But the educated and the wealthy and the people that know and know who to talk to and get their advice from know how to get around paying tax or paying certain taxes, so they get to invest more of their money and have more of it in their pocket, not necessarily right now but in the future. So I think the best thing to do is just be educated and try and get a real understanding of what the governments and all these organizations are doing and try and follow suit. That's my view on it.
Okay, but I guess from a standpoint of should the rich pay more or not, where do you stand on that?
Yeah, I think the rich should just pay the same percentage of what everyone else is paying, and actually pay it, because we don't get. I say we, like the people that are lower to the ground, that get taxes taken from them, and have to think of ways of how to accumulate and get back that tax. They don't have a choice. So the people at the top shouldn't have a choice neither. It should be, this is the standard, this is what you pay, this is what everyone else pays as a percentage, and that's what it should be all the way around.
Yeah. We're going to touch on some of these things, but I just realized, when you got a Gatorade towel on your shoulder. I know the people that are listening, you've been training or something?
Hey. we start talking about taxes,
Get to
sweat. Black man got to start sweating,
Oh, no.
They listening.
Hey, but anyway, Marquise, what you got to say about it?
Hey, man, just to be real, I guess I would say no one really likes paying taxes. I mean, it's something you got to do, but no one really enjoys doing it. And at the end of the day, these taxes are what funds our government and funds what the government provides for us. So I would say it's an even split for us. We should all do our part, pay our taxes, and let the government do what it do. If someone and earns a high income for whatever reason, or even for whatever business activities they're running, I don't think they should have to pay a higher proportion of the tax because we all have an even playing field. We all operate under the same rules. If one person ends up making more money than someone else, I don't think they should be penalized for that. However, the knowledge factor is what's important. So everybody, although we're playing under the same tax rules, I think everybody should have the opportunity to understand how the tax system works so that we can all, benefit. Even though the rich will probably be benefiting more, we should still have that knowledge as, the regular people.
Yeah.
So that's my stance on it.
Yeah, I think this knowledge aspect, we're going to have to touch back on that. But yeah, Sido, what you think?
I just want to start off my section by saying that anything that we say in this episode is not tax advice. Do not sue us.
100%.
Do not take this as advice.
Yeah, I should throw that disclaimer at the
We
start.
are not. I'm not a CPA. We are not accountants. Well, Mark is an accountant, but you got to talk
I
to
do
him
not
on the
give
side
tax
about
advice.
that. Does not give tax advice.
Yeah,
So
y'all can listen to
everything-
my advice.
Everything that we say, don't sue us, bro.
On me. We're going to get people in jail and stuff for not paying their
Word, right?
taxes.
Everyone's gonna be.
And those boys on Problematic 4 told me not to pay my taxes.
They all getting
I
Al
don't know if that's-
Capone out here and whatnot.
We're going to see how that one holds up in court.
Yeah, no. If you go to jail for tax evasion, it is not on us. All right, you can eat that out of the cookout. All right, thank you.
Yeah.
But on a serious note, though, I do believe the rich people should be getting taxed more, mainly because of the loopholes that they exploit to pay less taxes. Because even without the whole level playing field, they pay taxes on a separate set of earnings than the average consumer does, and with that, since they already have the leeway to be spending less on taxes, they should already be providing more on taxes. Even though they're spending even less than what the current level is because of all the other loopholes, and these loopholes range from industry to industry, and the consumer is just getting taxed at every step of the way. Every dollar that comes out of the consumer's pocket or goes into their pocket is taxed, and it's like, well, damn, like y'all taking money out of me before I even get to take my money out of me. Well, and all the investors and whatnot are keeping more of their money to make more investments, while people are just trying to live, and more money's getting taken out of their pocket to live. And on the flip side, investors are getting more money to invest, so they're just going to keep getting richer, and poor people can keep getting poorer. So I think richer people should feel empowered to pay more taxes.
Yeah. Okay. We're definitely going to touch on all of those a little more. I just wanted to hear everyone's stance because personally, I don't think that taxing the rich more is the solution, and I don't think that people should. And we'll definitely speak about it a little bit more on during the episode. But where do you guys think whether at the end of the day everyone's going to pay taxes, right? Whether it's a lot by the rich, a lot by the poor, or the consumer, whoever it is, taxes are going to be paid. Where do you guys think that those tax dollars should be allocated? And once again, we're no experts, and this is just a little bit of our opinion. But when you guys look at all the places tax dollars could be going, education, healthcare, infrastructure, social programs in the city, welfare, all of that, where do you guys think that taxes should be going? And do you guys think it's going to those places? And it's going to be kind of fun because we have multiple perspectives here where Canada, the US, and the UK, they do things completely different, right? So you guys can speak on all of those. But Marquise, what do you guys what do you think?
Man, actually, I kind of took a look at where the actual spending is going currently, and like here in Canada, obviously we have the two-tier government, the provincial and the federal, and I just took a look at where the most of our tax dollars went to. So like at the federal level, it went to, advancing reconciliation and settling specific claims. So as you guys know, in recent history, Canada's had a lot of cases with dealing with the native people of Canada.
Yeah, definitely.
So most of the funds in 2019 went to settling those claims, which is fine. But on a provincial level, that's where I guess my issue would be. I think more money should be spent on education. I would assume, well, not assume. I feel like to a certain degree, I don't think we have the best education system, and that's why some of our students coming out of school, don't have the tools or the knowledge they need to kind of succeed. So we need to invest more in, getting teachers, enough pay, giving them the facilities to educate people. And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there's always, strikes and things that are always disrupting people learning nowadays. And like, if we're not spending money on that, then, we're kind of doomed as a society, because where are all these people going to go? Where are they going to get the knowledge to succeed, So that's, I think the main thing should be education. That's what we should be spending our money on.
Yeah. Sido, what are your thoughts?
So for me, I believe that the money should be used on more kind of social community programs, because in America, we have different tax rates every different block you live on, county, states. You got state taxes, local taxes, if your locality charges you taxes, and then you got federal taxes, right? And based on where you are, if you're living in an affluent neighborhood or locality, those taxes are going to take care of your place, but they're not going to take care of the person next to you, like in the next county over. So, the more rich people conglomerate in one area in America, the more taxes cover that area, and they can basically just vote in their local assemblies and stuff like that and say like, hey, we want this, that, and the third done. So, roads are paved all the time. Their school has the highest government funding, and their teachers are paid more handsomely. And for me, it just creates a big divide when a whole locality is making way more money in tax revenue than another locality, and they're not distributing the funds to help the lesser locality strive a little bit better, when the social programs that they're offering for free in the millionaire zip code, those they don't even really need those programs, because they're already affluent enough, and they all have their buddies and their businesses and their circles that are helping out their community, that they don't even need the tax revenue to pay for it, because they can already have the money to cover that kind of stuff. So I feel like another, if that could go to lower social programs where people are in careers that are like so selfless, like social work, teaching, community organizer, and things like that, that could help make the entire locality, whether it's the city or a state or whatever, make it that a safer and more productive area than just leaving it the way it is now.
Yeah, so I would agree with everything that Sido just said. Like every single thing that came out of his mouth, I would agree with 100%, because it's this money has to be for everybody, for the people that need it, not just there's a big chunk of money over here and we're going to keep it, and we're going to keep raising the standards of the people in that particular area, whereas the other areas, we're not investing in it, we're not trying to make these people rise from where they are and educate and develop. So from that perspective, the people pay the taxes, so the people should be the ones that choose where this money is going. Yes, we can vote for parties and in elections and local elections and things like that for people to represent you, but are they really representing you? Do you have a deep level of options as to where you want the money to go? So you can go and tick who you're voting for in this list, but then do you get to tick where the money goes? And you don't really. you can push and you can fight like a lot of the stuff that's happening now with demonstrations, and you know, when they had that demonstration a few years back on Wall Street and things like that. So it needs to come back more to the people, because these big people that are, you know, gathering all these taxes and being able to not pay taxes, they are funding themselves, and they're funding themselves through government as well, which I think is absolutely
But according to that
wrong.
logic, then if the people that are paying the taxes are deciding where the money's going, wouldn't the people that pay more taxes decide, like, have more of a say?
Yeah, but the fact is, remember, there's a 1%. There's a 1% compared to the 99%.
I feel like
Now,
that
the
1%
1%
is doing what you're saying anyway, Juju. Like, they're doing
What's
it
that?
regard. The 1% that have all that money are doing that anyway, because they just use their money to fund political campaigns and stuff anyway. So I think that's already the status quo.
Yeah,
But that's according to your logic. Then it should stay that way. Because why
No,
would? Because that
it-
1% also, you have to keep in mind. If you look at like straight from a statistical, or like, I think that is like, if you make more than like $135,000 a year, which is 3% of the population, they pay 70% of the taxes. That's in the U.S. They
Right.
pay 70% of the taxes in the U.S. So why should that the rest of the population that pays 30% of the taxes, why should they get to decide where that money goes now?
because it should be equal all around board. Like, we will say that they pay, you know, a certain amount of the taxes as a whole in terms of finance and money wise, but they're not paying more than what the average person is out of as a percentage out of their salary or their wages. They're not. And as a country, or as an established, you know, first world country, the fact that you have one government in that particular country, your money's going there and then they distribute it, right? So from that perspective, it should be every man, woman, child, you know, should at some point be said, you know, be able to say, this is where I want this money to go. As
But
a
that's
whole
what we,
country.
That's why we have a democracy. You know, that's why we have.
But it's
you
a
can
fake
vote.
democracy, though, because
But is it though?
you're allowed to vote, but then okay, you vote somebody in, and you know they'll do certain things that they say, okay, we can do these 5 things. We're telling you these 5 things that we can do for you, not what would you like us to do. So it's already, they're already dictating to us exactly what you can vote for from what you can't. Like,
But
at the
then I still
minute,
don't get like what the solution is. Like, you'll just have like a million people all deciding like where this money go, like sitting down at a table, millions of people in America like sitting down at a table and deciding where this money goes.
but you got to give people more options. Say, for instance, the American election right now, you
Yeah.
really only have 2 parties. Like, why is that? It's because the people at the top that have the money have decided we're only going to have 2, and we're going to fund these organizations. I mean, these people to be at that point where they can enter to go towards being president. Whereas everyone else is kind of like, well, we can't afford to be political. We can't afford to get into those arenas. Whereas if the money was shared and it wasn't outsiders that were allowed to pay government to put these people in these places, it will be more equal.
Yeah, I wish I
in
could get a
that
refund
case-
on my taxes.
No, but in that case, then Rock, I think then you need to clarify like what responsibilities belong to which type of government. If at the federal level they kind of oversee certain responsibilities, and at the local level they oversee whatever responsibilities they have. But
Yeah.
in an area where at the local level, you have the people who are earning a lot of money and they have a lot of taxes, and those taxes are funding whatever projects they want to run. I don't think that's anybody else's fault. I feel like if you want to change it and have everybody have an equal piece of the pie, then we got to change it and have a certain level of government is controlling certain things. So if you want education to be improved on all levels, then it should be a federal thing as opposed to a local thing.
Yeah.
If you want social programs to be improved all around, it should be federal as opposed to local. Like, I feel like
And it's already kind of like that, because a lot of people don't realize is when you look at this, the education is ran by, local, the local government. So a lot of people love blaming, the federal or government for, things going on. And the best examples are the U.S., right? We'll speak.
Yeah.
We can speak about Canada as well, but people will blame Trump for the things that are going on in a city like Chicago, right? But Chicago is run by a Democrat local government, right? Like, so it's kind of like, though it's their responsibility as well. So how do we look at those things? But to go back to the question, because I think that I somewhat agree with you guys, but I also think that from where the tax dollar, where taxpayer dollars should be going, should be things like infrastructure. What was I going to say? Healthcare. Things that should be out there for everyone, right? That just should be basic human rights.
Yep.
In that case, sorry to jump in, Juju, then we should say a bigger chunk of whatever is, federal, in this case, should be going towards that then.
Yeah. In my opinion, those things should be from a federal, at the federal level, things like education, healthcare, infrastructure, should be ran by federal, and then, the your local taxes, or whether it's state, municipal, or whatnot, should be now. Then they go into social programs, this and that. But go ahead, Sido.
I'm like on the fence about that, because for it to be at a federal level, what the federal government would do is kind of make a baseline average of the education. And, as USA is the United States of America, every state is like almost completely different from the other state. New York will be completely different from like Kentucky. Kentucky's going to be different from Texas. Texas is going to be different from California, right? So it's really hard to try and throw stuff like that on the federal government to stabilize when there are different walks of life all across the country. It's like we're really 50 mini countries in one big country trying to like masquerade. Yeah. So it's really difficult for that to happen, and I think that would cost maybe more money. However, I do feel like taxes, there should be a baseline of the other things like the healthcare, the social programs and stuff like that, but it's very hard to do that on a state by state basis based on the things like the population, housing, the neighborhoods. Because if one state, if you're in like New Brunswick, New Jersey, and it's nothing but farmland and rich people, and then you go to like Ohio where it's like farmland and poor people, like those are already two different sets of needs that would be required to satisfy the populations in those two different areas. So that does provide a complex problem.
Yeah, but I think that it should be more uniform almost, because do you know how much teachers unions are costing? Because you're saying that it would cost more to make it uniform, like teacher unions, which are destroying some of our more some of our affluent cities that have more African American cities. All of those cities are ran by teachers unions, which costs a lot, first of all, and they remove the incentive to actually teach and educate people, because as a teacher you're not, you can't be fired, you don't have, all of this, and I'm not saying that none of those teachers care or whatnot, but they're just thrown with a bunch of students in their classroom because of wherever location they're on, and they do the best they can. Because I've volunteered at some of those schools in the U.S. and I grew up in some of those schools here in Canada, so I've seen it from two different perspectives, and I think that those are not in our best advantage, like at all. And this conversation isn't necessarily about white or black, but like, if we look at it from four black men perspective, right? Like, I don't think that those are the things that are helping us at all.
Okay.
Yeah. But to touch on that a little more, to speak about, the disparity between the rich paying taxes. Let's speak about that specifically a little bit more and get away from where the tax dollar, because I think it's easy for us to say, tax dollars should be going there.
Yeah.
But let's speak a little bit more about rich people paying more taxes and you guys' logic behind that. And we can throw in there the conversation behind minimum wage and how that trickles down to the poor people and things like that. But want to hear, what you guys have to say. So you want to speak on that?
I'll kick it off. So to also kind of bring in the whole, basic social needs like, healthcare, infrastructure, water, electricity, yada, yada. Not saying that taxes pay for that, but taxes pay for, the system supporting that kind of thing, right? For me, richer people definitely have more capital to do certain things that they want. And they're already at a point, and by rich, I'm really talking like 1%. I'm not talking about like the top 10%.
Yeah.
Really, the 1% I'm more focused on. But they all have enough money to survive for lifetimes, right? They have enough capital, whether it's or their net worth, rather, I should say, whether it's in stocks and bonds, real estate, or their own business. They have the money and the means to survive for the rest of their life. And they also have the money and means to survive for their family, to survive several generations after
for sure
they're gone from the world, right? They should be willing to make a donation, which they can do to support a cause,
and they do,
but sometimes it's a little construed, but that's a different conversation. But they should also be taking on more of the tax burden because the way they make most of their money is not through earned income. It's through stocks. It's through other income sources. Not it's not like they're going to a job and getting paid, right? They are getting money from their investments, and that is already taxed at a lower number with all the other tax advantages that they take on than the average person. So it's like if they're getting charged like 15% tax, granted that 15% tax is already a big number because they already make so much money off of it. They shouldn't even really have further loopholes because they're already paying 15% tax on it, where everybody else is paying 30, 40, 50% tax. So, they're already getting this leg up to use their money to invest more.
Wait, who's paying more taxes than them, you saying?
Well, percentage-wise, nobody's paying more taxes than them.
Yeah.
It's just the overall number is a lot larger because because 14% of $1 billion is way more than 40% of like somebody's 100,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
So percentage-wise, the person who's getting that 100,000 and getting charged 30-40%, it's harder on them to take 30-40% than it is to take the 15% from the billionaire that is already taking advantage of more tax incentives to reduce that 15% to potentially zero.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we'll talk about the tax advantage in a second a little more, but want to continue hearing from you guys what you have to say. I guess I do have some comments on that, but want to hear what you guys have to say.
Yeah.
So, in terms of when we think about like the percentage of taxes, right? If you think of it from a perspective of you got the lower class, the middle class, and the upper class, right? So the impact of tax only really hurts you in the pocket if you're in the middle or if you're lower. Because once you get to the middle, you earn a certain percent, your tax a certain percentage. And no matter what you get after that, you're still being taxed at a certain percent. So once you hit a certain threshold, you're paying the same tax no matter if you're earning, 50 mil compared to 2 billion.
Yeah. I think it's like if you make more than like 500 grand.
Yep.
Yeah. So from that perspective, it's okay. They're bringing more in terms of their taxes, as long as they're paying the taxes and they're not dodging taxes, which is, I think we're going to go into that a bit deeper later on. But, as long as they're paying the taxes, because, I've heard people like, I was in the car yesterday and I was listening to Jay-Z, and Jay-Z openly admitted that he's able to not pay tax. The same thing that they had over, the president. I don't know his name, but that guy. Mm-hmm. So, they're putting this, we look at one way and we look at the other way, and it's kind of like, hold on, I respect Jay-Z. I think he's a hustler and whatnot, and he's making his money and whatnot. But he just said the same thing that this other person has been, been shut down.
That's been my point the whole time, and they're not the only two, but whatever. Mm-hmm. Like, keep going.
Yeah. So for me, I just, as much as I hear people that I look up to in, in business and in music and so on, and the way they say they're able to manage, getting around certain things, I think that shouldn't be the case. We don't get a choice in what we're paying if we are a normie. The money comes out of your money. And if you haven't paid enough, they're coming to get it. And yes, that will happen for the rich, but they have a team of people that can say, you know what, move your money over here, put your money in here. Even though it's tied up, you're not paying no tax on it this year or for the next 4 years or whatever it is. So I think that's, I'm still probably still harping on the same level, where I think everything should be the same all around. You should pay tax at this percentage regardless. You shouldn't have a way of getting out of it.
But you also mentioned that you don't have a choice, and once again, we'll obviously come back to that. But you do have, like, even though it comes out of your paycheck, you still do have a choice in overall how much taxes you pay at the end of the year.
Yeah, but if you think about what you earn and what you have to spend in terms of, being able to say, I can write off 100,000 this year, but if you have overheads of a certain amount, then you can't write that off. Whereas they're able to write that off and do other things like, have a business and make that be the bucket of what's holding their finances, and you can pay yourself dividends and live, and you're still paying a lower level of tax off the back of that, and you're not paying yourself a salary, but you're keeping that money in the business, in your organization. Then you're going to pass that on to your children, and they're going to benefit from that and build off of that, and the cycle just keeps going and going. The rich keep rich and the poor stay poor.
So basically, this all just doesn't apply to regular people like us who are working that 9-to-5 job and earning their income that way. Like, you almost need to learn from what they're doing somehow and try to work it that way. But it's not as easy for us to do that. We don't have the kind of resources to,
Exactly. There's certain things that you could create your own business and do things and build and put your money into that and whatnot, but then you've got to cut out where else, other places that you're spending your money or whatnot.
Mm-hmm. I think let's table this conversation for a second, because we'll speak about it, but I still think that it is about the education. But in your opinion, then you guys all think that rich people, we should just increase the tax and tax the heck out of them? Because there's been multiple studies that have shown that when you actually increase the taxes, or the studies have been the adverse. So there's, I think, 4 or 5 different governments that have tried, and they haven't all been Republicans. There's been Democrat governments, Republican governments that have come in and decreased taxes. And the study showed that when you decrease taxes, there's actually more money going into the government. There's more money there's more taxes that are actually paid when you decrease taxes. And the reason for that is that a lot of people, they assume that consumer like that the consumption is going to be the same, or that the rich are the ones that are impacted when taxes are decreased or increased. But when you increase taxes, taxes on regular big consumer goods go up, things like oil, gas, and everything like that. And who does that really hurt? It doesn't hurt. Like if you think about, I don't know, let's say a billionaire, he makes $1 billion a year. The highest tax bracket right now pays what, like 39-40%, let's say 40%.
Yeah.
Okay, he pays $400 million a year in taxes.
Yep.
Now tax him 10% more. Like let's assume that you tax him 10% more, that's an extra $100 million. That billionaire is not downsizing his house.
Yeah.
That billionaire is not getting one less yacht or this and that. What's happening? That's $100 million worth of jobs that are now gone. $100 million that's reinvested into the business of people like us, that it's no longer possible. So that's so many jobs that are now gone. Another thing is that those tax increases actually hurt people like small businesses. And I know that it's a little bit of, me just being like, we should get, like, that's a little bit of the asshole in me that's like, okay, like we all have the ability to grind, to work, and get something. And I completely understand the fact that not everyone has the same opportunity that even just us here have, right? Yeah. But I still think that if you think about it, like the people that are really hurt are the small businesses, are actually people like us that Elon Musk might decide, like, you know what, I'm not going to keep growing the company this year and hire 1,000 more people. I'm not going to, reinvest in the company and do this and do that and increase incomes. So we are the ones that are actually hurt by that.
But doesn't that impact in the long term? Like,
what do you mean?
In the first couple of years, there might be an impact, but over a longer period of time, money doesn't go nowhere. They're still taking, banks are getting money from in the US, the Federal Reserve, and they're, bringing it out and spreading it amongst the people. So once money is there, it has to move into different sectors and different corners of the economy of a particular country. After a while, it has to get back into the flow. Like initially they might stand up and be like, yeah, I'm not doing this, I'm not employing people, I'm not doing this because I'm getting this and I'm getting that. But then when their money starts getting cut and they're not, bringing in as much as they were previously, then they're gonna have to think of ways of like, oh, you know what, I can't just sit here and let my money just stack at this level. I need to get back in it. And then there's more competition from other organizations and be like, well, if he's not going to do it, we're going to do it.
Oh, I mean, they're always going to reinvest, but they just have the ability, they have less ability to do it. Like if you take $100 million from him, he's not going to be like, oh, I'm shutting, if you take $100 million away from Jeff Bezos, he's not shutting down Amazon, but he is growing less. He is growing Amazon a little less.
But I'm conflicted there. Sorry. So this is my thing, right? One, I'm against raising taxes, right? I don't want to just say up the taxes on rich people, but usually when they raise taxes, they're taking it from the poor demographics anyway. But I'm not saying raise the taxes on rich people. And my thing is, whether you give Jeff Bezos a lower tax rate with more money in his pocket to give him an opportunity to invest more doesn't necessarily mean he's going to invest more.
But studies have shown that that's what actually happens.
But that choice there, that's a slippery slope, because that could be 100,000 that they want to put into the government, 100 million that they want to invest on somebody's political campaign that may not share the same views as you. They might use that to influence factors that are out of your control to impose upon your livelihood.
But studies have shown that what happens is,
because I'm pretty sure there's studies that show the opposite as well. But go ahead.
in that case, then it should be like this: if they're gonna get that tax break, they should be obligated to reinvest it as an obligation by the government. If you want to give them that tax break and you want them to reinvest it into the company, that's set that as a law. Otherwise,
see
they
that.
don't get
Yeah,
they don't get that break.
they do have to be careful with that wording, because if you are laissez-faire about it, they will exploit that law to dodge further taxes. Like they'll
No, but that's what I'm saying is like every single time you increase taxes, all that rich people do is they find loopholes in order to not pay the taxes.
Yeah,
and
but-
that doesn't
But my
doesn't
whole
benefit
thing-
anyone.
my whole thing has been, you got to cut out these loopholes. Like
Yep.
It's hard to cut our loopholes.
I
man.
I know it's
Ah,
difficult. I'm not saying it's easy.
It's not hard. It's impossible. There's
but-
always going to be another one.
Yeah, but the way the tax code is set up for you to make more investments, right? The more investments you make, the less tax you pay. But it shouldn't, in my opinion, it shouldn't have been set up like that. It should have been, you get taxed a little bit less, but there shouldn't be an incentive to pay less taxes to do more X, Y, and Z, because realistically, you probably would have wanted to make the investment you're going to make if you
Wait, there
started a
shouldn't be an
business.
incentive to pay less taxes if you're reinvesting in your business and creating jobs for other people?
No, what I'm saying is there shouldn't be an incentive to dodge taxes to invest, because if you really want to grow your business, you're going to make an investment to grow your business. If you don't want to grow your business, fine, you don't want to grow.
But bro, so I obviously spoke about the fact that I worked as a financial advisor. You know how hard it is to, once you make more than, I believe it's like $140,000 a year. It is hard to find tax advantageous way to invest your money, period. Like just for you and I, like you can invest in your Roth IRA, I can invest in my TFSA. In the US, once you make more than $140,000 a year, you cannot invest in a Roth IRA. So there's no way, there's no avenues to make tax-free dollars. So like, those rich people already are looking for any kind of way to invest their money. And when they reinvest that money into their business, they're still taxed. Like, yes, they have some tax advantages, but every dollar that comes back to them out of that, all those capital gains, they're still taxed out of that. But Rock, you were going to say something.
I've forgotten. To be
But let's then move
Apologies.
to the next conversation, because I think that it fits in quite well with this, and speak about the loopholes and the tax advantages, because obviously we're gonna be candid with people. This conversation came off of us speaking about the tax releases of the U.S. president, that the tax returns that got released, with saying that he paid $750 in federal income tax.
Yep.
Now, one thing I read that was really, really interesting is that, and it came from a black man, he said, those loopholes and everything that he did, I don't think that he actually paid $750 and that was it. I think that there's more to it with the capital gains tax and all of that. But it's easier to throw that on Instagram and call it a day, and it fits a narrative.
Turn it into a meme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But this being said, I do think that whatever he did to bring his income down, it is available. Like Rocky was saying earlier, that it's not. It is available to all of us, and the reason I know that is because I've been doing it for forever. I've been finding not loopholes. I've never done anything illegal, but I have been writing off. I set up a business before. I did things like that. I own real estate now, and I'm fortunate enough to be able to do that. But it comes down to education. Marquise, like you mentioned that at the beginning of the episode, it's all about just the knowledge that other people have that others don't. And in order to get that, it just comes down to like people deciding like, oh, I'm going to learn about it. Let's see what in my world, let's speak. For me, it came down to speaking with people that made me feel stupid. I had to have conversations with people that make me feel dumb. And be like, oh, wow, hold on. This is how you live your life? This is how you do this? This is how you do that? And those things are available to every single person. I've been writing off income since I made $20,000 a year. And I was able to still write some stuff off of that. So for people to tell me that like people in the middle, people at the bottom aren't able to write off income, I'm not buying it.
when I say not able to, I'm talking about the percentage of what you're earning compared to someone who's earning millions and millions of dollars a year. What they can write off, from what they are investing and what they're putting into as a percentage, knowing that they can live off certain things and pass other things off as day-to-day costs, which when we look at our day-to-day costs, they're different because we have to pay the tax on it, but them, for their day-to-day costs, they're not paying nothing in tax because they're running it through business, they're running it through this, they're doing this and they're doing that, they're finding all the loopholes to dodge tax.
Okay, so right now everyone's working from home, right? Like we're in a state of a pandemic. Do people know that they can write off a part of their rent because it's technically a home office?
But do you not have to own your own business for that?
That depends. Depends.
But you can. But people don't know that. You don't have to you don't have to own your own business to be able to do that. And I shouldn't say that on Marquise because he might come at my neck for it.
I'm at the
like we said earlier, this is not tax advice. Okay, this is not tax advice. We're just saying, all right, don't sue us.
But like I say, like a lot of people just aren't aware, and that's just like one small example. Like, and I know that a lot of people that would do that, it's part, it's because they own a business or whatnot. But a lot of people aren't aware of things like that.
But I feel like, doesn't that depend on how you're earning your income? Because like if you have like a small business and then you're writing off part of your rent as a home office thing, I feel like it's easier to do that through a business that's actually getting the money rather than you getting paid from your job.
Yeah, I'm gonna say this with regards to that. I think for someone to know whether or not they can do that, they'll have to look up the actual law that applies to it and determine if they're eligible. Because those rules are clear cut. If you're eligible, you'll know. So you probably just have to look that up.
So you just have to see if you're eligible or ineligible.
If you're eligible or not.
My accountant told me I could. So y'all
then you must be.
I'm about to call up my account right now.
like you were saying, it all depends on how you're structured in terms of say for instance, I had a small business before, and there were certain things that I could write off as having a home business and as traveling to work, wear and tear on my vehicle and all those kind of things that you could, work towards, getting money back from the taxes that you're paying. But all depends on where you stand in terms of your day-to-day income and being able to prove certain things. Because if you can't prove certain things but you're saying them, guaranteed they're coming to bite you in the ass.
Oh, bro, I'm not talking about doing anything illegal. But it comes down to understand what you are allowed to and what you're not, right? Like, but people don't know what they're allowed to do.
It's because they don't look it up.
Exactly, they don't teach it
in schools at all.
But the thing is, like, the rich people, the billionaires, they'll take every single dollar. Like, they'll go to the limit of what they're allowed to do in order to get as many. And for us, we're just like, let's just submit it and let's just call it a day. And we're paying everything, right? Like, instead of being like, even if you're saving, like, let's say you were paying, I don't know, $3,000 in taxes every year, and you're just saving $100. Why not save that $100? Because next year, as your income's growing, next thing it becomes a little more. Because that $100, you can now reinvest it, and at a compounding interest over the course of time. That's how people build wealth.
Got you. Okay,
that's a fair point, Choo.
Yeah, that's valid. That's valid. But my thing with that. Actually, I ain't got nothing. I ain't gonna lie. I gotta think a little more. I was thinking about the next topic, not even like this one. So,
it's like you're saying, like everyone's been saying, it's education, knowing the people that you need to know that can say, look, you're gonna submit your taxes. This is what you need to look at. Do you have this? Do you have that? Can you submit this? Can you submit that? If you have that right person in your corner to say, then I'm not saying you can't take the time and educate yourself.
Bruh.
I'm not saying you can't educate yourself, but when you have an accountant, they are able to look at things that you would never have seen because they
Of
do
course.
that every day.
Yeah.
Yeah, but how many people
So-
can afford an accountant?
No, and I get that argument that
that's-
not everyone can afford an accountant.
Yeah.
But I told you, like, I've been doing this stuff since I made $20,000 a year. So at $20,000, I wasn't able to afford an accountant.
My thing is this. Just to jump in a little bit, I really want everybody to try and do some kind of tax education like this, and then see how
It is
quick the
needed,
laws change when everybody and their mom are doing it. And the government's not getting it. That's what I really want to see. Because if everyone could do it, and then we all write off this home rent because we're eligible, and we all take back an extra $300. I want to see government people scramble to change this tax law so that it doesn't happen anymore.
But
That's
bro,
what I
like,
feel it's gonna happen.
honestly, one thing that you're not thinking about is that if everybody did that, we would all be like, slowly but surely, we all start making more money and reinvest more money and pay more taxes.
True, but
So, like,
someone
that's
will
the
pick up
logic.
the pieces there and like screw up that part of the tax code. Like
I don't think so, because there's more taxes being paid at that point. There's more money going into the government. That's what studies have shown every time. Is like, the more people take advantage of this stuff, the more people are making, therefore the more people are paying taxes, even though that tax percentage is smaller and smaller.
See, but I feel like it doesn't apply all the time. One more thing, because this is the main case study I have, right? Verizon, around the whole time about net neutrality, they were given like something like a $40 million tax break just to line up Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and New York City with fiber optic internet, right? They got this $40 million tax break. It might even be more, to be honest. Someone needs to fact check me on this. But they were given this tax break, and all they did, they were like, we can't deliver on this. So then the government gave them another tax break of a similar amount, and they still did not line up those areas with fiber. So
they
I
kept
don't
the
know
cash?
what they invest that money in.
Yeah.
A lot of their people were like, oh yeah, we got the contract for the tax write-off, whatever, and all their like CEOs got bonuses. It was around the time of the 2008 crisis. AIG got bailed out by the Obama administration, and they tried to just jack all their shareholders, not their shareholders, their executive board, just try to give them all crazy raises, and then the government had to react with 100% tax on all of those executives. So like, not all the time that case is the case. Ideally, in a utopia, I'd be like, yeah, I'm down. Just so, because if they have more money to invest, they could give me a better job, maybe trickle down. But a lot of time, trickle down economics have not shown to be trickle down. Like, and that's rough.
Because if you think about it like this, from the wealth that's made by these organizations, right? All these banks, for example, they make all this money, they make all these losses, right? They draw back from the government, which is the people. Then the government say, we need some money. Where do they go? They go externally. They borrow more money that the people have to then pay back. So the people that have already stolen the money and that have the money, they ain't got to worry about nothing. It's the people that have to pay it back and then paying interest on that, on the day-to-day, the day-to-day earnings and stuff like that.
That's why China owns half the world now.
On me, and their dollar is powerful. But then let me do this. Like, I want to know, if I gave you 1 minute right now and just told you rewrite the whole tax code and tell me where would tax dollars be allocated, who would pay what amount of taxes, what would you have to say, Sido? Let's start with you.
Yeah, that's rough, man. A minute, that's not enough time.
That's a tough task I just gave you.
Like, all right. God damn it. See, I already lost like 10 seconds out the minute. All right. Earned income, right? You have a job, you work for an employer, they're paying you, something like a 30% to 20 to 30% tax rate, depending on how much money you're making, sounds fair to me, right? So if you're making a little less, if you're making like 30,000, then because of the cost of living, you have to use this percentage against the cost of living, right? So if you're making 30,000 a year, cost of living is XYZ, and all right, we'll reduce you down to like 20%, 15%, whatever the case is. You're making over 100,000. You stay at 30. You make like 200,000. All right, 40. Because the overall, if we're charging you 40 at 200,000, you're still taking home like 160,000, right? So you're still, and match that against your cost of living, you're still good, right? If you're doing some kind of investment, I am a fan of the capital gains tax. When you are, after a year, capital gains, you're taxed like 14, 15%. So earned income, capital
But for
gains,
rich people, it's actually 25%.
I don't know. All right. Well, capital gains, that should also go up proportionally to how much money you're actually getting.
Yeah, there's
or how
only
much
two
your
of
net
them
worth
for
is.
capital gains right now. It's not like proportion. It's only two.
Yeah,
of them.
it's like
once you make
14
Yeah.
and there's like 30, right?
it's
like,
15 and 25. Yeah, once you make above
Yeah.
a certain threshold, it becomes 25. Yeah,
Yeah, so it's like if you do stuff like that repeatedly and you're continually bringing in a crazy amount of capital gains income, that should also be taxed at a certain rate. That and I don't mind it being lower than earned income, so you could reinvest it, but there shouldn't be other incentives in there to reduce it lower than the 14. It's like, nah, we're taking our 14 or 25, whatever the number is, we're taking this number regardless, and that's like your cap. And then honestly, if you're making like $1 billion and you are a single individual, you need to be taxed even more. Not to say taxed you like 50%, where that's 500 million, but the number should be going up proportionally to the locality of you live / the business you're in. That's that, and that's the best I can say in a minute. I wish I could flesh it out a little more, and I definitely went over, but that's all I got.
Mr. Rock, what'd you think? Give me a tax code.
I'll take it back to like how we grew up and how a lot of people are still growing up now, right? So in my household, if I have children, or I do have children, but once you live with me and you are earning, right? When you come in the door, I want to know how much you're getting paid. I'm going to say, okay, so this amount should be able to last you to live a nice, decent life while you're in my house, right? So after that, there's a certain percentage I'm going to take of your money. And regardless of if you're making way more than me or less than me, once you hit that threshold, you're paying a percentage. Full stop. That's it. I don't want to hear about, but I'm studying and I'm doing this and I need to invest into it. Well, that's your business. If you want to do that, fair enough, go ahead. But you got to pay the bills for living here. And that's how it should be on a wider scale. Just because you might be, investing in your education and going here. If you're earning, you're putting in your percentage regardless. If you want to do extra bits and pieces, that's up to you. But you just know that when the first of the month comes and you get paid, or the last day of the month, or however it is, you have a responsibility. You pay that, and then anything else that you want to pay, you do. And that's how I think it should be worldwide, and country and state and province and all them kind of things. That's how I see it. If I was ruling the world, I'd be like, that's how it will go.
Yeah. Marquise, money man, give us your tax code.
This guy said my tax code. I'm not gonna speak on any numbers or anything, but I still feel that everyone should be paying their own share. Everyone should be paying their. I still think everyone should be paying their own share, right? If you end up making a significant amount of money, as long as you're within, as long as you're paying within your, tax bracket or whatever it is, as long as you're following the rules, I think everyone should be eligible to do whatever they want. I like Rock's point where he says you have to have a specific set amount that goes to him in his household, and the rest of it you can do whatever you want as long as you make sure you hit that percentage. I think that's probably the best way to go about it, man. Like that makes sure the government is funded. you can do whatever you want to do with the extra. If you want to go buy a yacht, well and good, bro.
Yeah,
But that's what I have to say for that.
Don't buy a yacht and be like, all right, now I'm gonna write this yacht off so I could get some. No, don't do that. I hate that. But anyway,
But yeah, I guess if I were to write a tax code, it would be interesting because I would definitely. I like a lot of those approaches. I think that I would try to see, what's required for us to sustain as a country, right? And how do we get that proportionally from people that we need it from. But once again, I don't think that there's any issues with people making a lot of money, and I don't think that it should be a bad thing because I think that it should be something that that people are incentivized to make, right? I don't think that people should be like, I want to make less money so I don't have to pay a lot of taxes. So I wouldn't necessarily take a lot of those tax breaks away, and I wouldn't tax disproportionately to the rich. But I think that definitely people that make more money, I wouldn't say that I would have a cap as far as taxes at I don't know, it's like 450,000, something like that right now. I wouldn't say that there should be a cap there. It's the same in Canada and in the US. It's around that 450,000 range. I don't know exactly what it is in the UK and wherever people are listening to this from, but I think that it could increase a little bit, but maybe like 1 or 2% as you make more, and obviously, but because someone making 500,000 and someone making $1 billion, there's a pretty significant difference, right? But at the same time, I don't think that right now the tax code is completely broken. But as far as where the dollars would go, I definitely think for me, healthcare infrastructure is where things like that should go. I'm not a huge fan of welfare and increasing minimum wage and things like that because I still don't believe that that's where that's where people should settle for. But I mean, there's a conversation to be had there as well. But hey, it's what's that?
Education should be a big thing.
No, exactly. Education would probably be a part of that as well. But I think that it's so easy for us to say sitting here in front of our microphones and cameras and not actually in an Oval Office where there's a lot more that goes into those discussions. So I guess we're just going to log off for today. So thanks for tuning in. We hope you enjoyed this conversation, this episode. Make sure to follow us or subscribe to the podcast. Also make sure you follow us on Instagram, Facebook to be part of our community there. But for today, this was the Problematic Cookout. And we're signing out. Cue the soundtrack.
Peace, y'all. Be out of here.
Yay.
Is it on go or is it on 3 or is it on 1?
Problematic.
I'm Marquise.
Problematic. Problematic. Cookout podcast. Yeah, Sito in the building. Problematic.
It's your boy Jude.
Problematic Cookout podcast. Problematic.
Yo, what did my man just say then?
Problematic.
Yo, you're listening to Mr. Rock.
Problematic.